Yeah.
It's on the iPad or the computer.
Zoom. Meeting.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Now it's 6 o'clock.
This meeting will come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll.
Benjamin. Here. Baylor.
Here.
Holman.
Here.
Kasdorf.
Here.
Sardina.
Here.
Tarks.
Here.
Is there anyone desiring to be heard on any of the non-agenda items at this time? I will take public comment or desiring to be heard during the topics below as well. No one to speak for that. Consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
A motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in opposition, say nay. Motion passes. Communications, we had the department reports. Anything on your office?
No, I will just make a note that we can skip the building board as we do not have one today under the committee reports.
Okay, and then I did get an open house invitation for the trustees and administration for Emmanuel Lutheran. I sent that to each trustee, and if you're interested, you can respond to that contact. That's all I had on communications. Committee reports, library board.
Library board met September 9th, Tuesday at 6 o'clock. A few of the items discussed were, the quarterly budget. We're still doing okay. We're hanging. Program policy was reviewed. Some changes were made. Month of August, traffic was down a little bit. We figured that was kind of due to family vacations in the last summer. As always, we're looking for board members. The financial policy was approved. There'll be a Halloween program on Halloween from 5 to 7 where you come in and get a duck and decorate it. The endowment fundraiser at Culver's is October 13th from 4 to 8. The library will get 15%, so please tell everybody to come out and get a Butterburger. Unfortunately, we've discovered there's been some thefts. Somebody is stealing some Pioneer Woman cookbooks from the library. Apparently, they're picking on her. I don't know if she's that good of a cook, but apparently somebody thinks so. And on that note, we're waiting for from the safety contractor for some quotes for more cameras. End of report.
Thank you. Community Foundation, the big news there is we had to get a new roof, and that was installed, I think, last week. It was 30 years old, and we continued to just kind of work on general maintenance around the Clark House. End of report. Finance Committee?
Finance committee met a few minutes ago and we approved revenue. Invoices of $448,406.83. Pass it on to the full board for approval and a report.
Thank you. Report of the administrator.
The big item to report is that FEMA is now accepting personal damage claims online by phone. And then we are also in the works with Waukesha County and FEMA to have an in-person basically center here at Village Hall that will run for, we're estimating about a week or so. We're still trying to hammer down all of the specifics of where exactly and the time frame, but we're meeting with Alex from the county tomorrow, and then we'll be publishing those probably later this week on when individuals can come in and talk with FEMA, the Small Business Administration, Wisconsin Emergency Management to get help filing their claims for reimbursement from the federal government and the state government. Besides that, we're continuing to work on the budget, and we're already getting started with some of the road project items for next year. We're doing road corings, getting quotes for that, and those will probably be done later this year. End of report.
Thank you. New business. Discussion and possible action on 2025 trick or treat date and hours. At this time, is there anyone that would like to put their comment in on trick or treating? I had two suggestions brought to my attention, or suggested to me, would be on Friday the 31st from 5:30 to 7:30, or the week before, Saturday the 25th from 5:30 to 7:30.
Is 2 hours our normal?
Yes.
Yes.
And instead of, I think we last year tried, I want to say 5 to 7. And if I recall, there was no issues. And we've been switching it around a little bit. We haven't stayed with Sunday afternoon necessarily for.
Yeah, no, that's the only thing I can see about Friday at 5:30 is it's tough with people working.
And I think that's why instead of 5, it was suggested 5:30. So if people had to come home, the Friday is the 31st. That's Halloween. That's why.
Right.
Yeah, I've had a couple individuals reach out to me and call and email asking for the 31st. Just relaying what I've received from the public.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with a Friday, but I think 6 o'clock start would be a little bit nicer for people to get home. I mean, people sometimes aren't leaving work till 5. And then that would pose possibly traffic in the area if people are driving home yet. So I would say 6 to 8 if we were gonna do a Friday. That's my thought.
When does it get dark?
I think that it's,
7.
today is 6:58, the sun goes down.
Any issues with the police department if we did a 6 to 8? No issues. Want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to on the 31st, that Friday from 6 PM to 8 PM.
I'll second it.
A motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All in opposition, say nay.
Nah.
Motion passes. Item B, presentation of fire department organizational structure and future needs analysis and findings.
Yeah, so we have McMahon, we have 2 representatives from McMahon here to the findings of phase 1. They do have a PowerPoint that I will be putting up here that they will be going through for their presentation.
The microphone is on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jeff, do you want to just bring it a little bit closer to you? Just kind of move it a little bit closer to you. Thank you.
Maybe. How's that?
That's fine.
Okay. We are to the point where we're ready to give our recommendations and then kind of go through what the study entailed. So I'm going to do that tonight. Try not to bore you to death going through a million PowerPoint slides. We'll get through it pretty quick. This is our project team. I'm the project manager. We also have Robert Whitaker, Tim Schabel, Jerry Kudik, who is here tonight with me. and Mark Roloff on the project team. McMahon, as you know, is a engineering architectural consulting firm that has a arm of consulting, public management consulting. We are part of that arm, Public Safety and Emergency Management Division, and we have offices based in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. So the purpose and scope was pretty extensive. We have roughly 14 different questions that were asked in your proposal that you wanted in our agreement for us to answer. And that's pretty much what I'm going to go through tonight. So I'm not going to read all of these purpose and scopes to you because we'll actually go through them one at a time. And I'll give you where we're at and what our findings were and where we're headed with our recommendations. So we can go past that one, and the next one. We can go to the next one. That's just for the summary. So the first scope of services was to review the current organizational structure, high priority, short timeline. The findings, we found that as soon as the study started, you received a letter and notice from the department, from the volunteer department, that they could no longer continue to staff and we're looking for you to do something as far as coverage. The fire staff, there was 11 part-time firefighters, EMTs on the department, two full-time personnel on top of that work Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. 3 out of the 13 live in the village. And right now, the size of the department does not allow for sustainable operational deployments. So our recommendations based on those findings were to meet with surrounding municipalities, determine interest in covering the village, develop a fire EMS service request for proposal, collaborate with the joining municipalities to provide fire EMS services to the village, and procure short-term coverage through an auto aid agreements. So that's kind of where we're at. Most of that has been done already. The next scope of services was to emergency response data analysis. Annual calls for service are listed on the left there. 2024, there was 463, so it's actually down from the previous years. Those calls are separated by fire incidents, which count for 17% of those from last year. EMS was 57%, and mutual aid, so coverage outside of the village, accounted for 26%. So roughly 1.3 incidents per day average. If you take away the mutual aid, if we have somebody else covering, not going out from this station, that's less than 1 per day. Slide. We are to establish processes for the development of short-term and long-term needs for the fire station, personnel, major equipment, and vehicles as the organization is currently structured. Found that the fire station, there's garage restrictions, limited height in the garage, there's no crew quarters, personnel restrictions, not having enough personnel, and major equipment needs. So the fire station, our view and our recommendations relating to the station is that limited value, limited village hall space, as you all know. It's not sustainable and not cost effective to invest in the amount of dollars it would take for equipment right now. Okay. Reviewing a resource deployment strategy. There's 11 part-time personnel that come in basically off duty and are paid when they respond, and 2 full-time personnel. 8 of the 13 are EMTs. 3 of the 13 live in the village, and the station staff from 8 to 4:30. Obviously, and then the department, part of the letter that you received from the department admitted and showed that there's major hiring retention struggles. It's a nationwide thing. That's not new to Butler. Harder and harder to hire firefighter paramedics, firefighter EMTs. So there's inadequate staffing, inadequate station coverage. Basically those, if you take those 13 personnel and you take away even the 2 full-time, you're trying to cover everything on nights and weekends, by people that are just coming in off duty. So non-reliable incident recovery, unreliable incident recovery. Go to the next one. So current supply and inventory management. You have 2 ambulances, 2 engines, a ladder, a support vehicle. You have self-contained breathing apparatus, certification tools, hose, turnout gear, and radios. So if you look at the other side of that, 1 ambulance is 4 years old, the other is 18. So basically one has to be replaced. The engines, one's 11 years old and one's 34 years old. Again, 1 engine that's really current. Ladder is 34 years old, did not pass the latest inspection. Support vehicle that's 32 years old. The self-contained breathing apparatus is actually in good shape. Extrication tools are old and are due for a replacement. The hose is due for a replacement. Turnout gear, you have some new and some dated. Radios, they have 47 total units. All need to be replaced soon. There potentially was a previous grant that I did not get information on, so I believe some of those might have been replaced. I'm guessing that's VHS.
It's sold, but 2 years is all gonna get redone.
Yeah.
27 to 12 months.
Yep, they'll all have to be replaced soon. Next slide. Fiscal budgeting, controls, and operational practices. I list the 2025 budget is 375, 339. 2026 budget will be based on where we go with the proposals. Hopefully you'll going somewhere tonight with those proposals, so I'll start getting a little better idea what that'll look like. A 2001 service agreement with the Butler Volunteer Fire Department, Inc. Is dated and inadequate. Village board and administration should oversee, because the tax dollars are going for that department to function, but there's limited oversight. The fire board oversees the department. They gave a notice of inability to staff the department, and their current ISO rating is a 3. And if you look on the right side there, basically ISO Insurance Service Office rates departments, all your insurance rates for your, especially for your business, but also for residential, come off of those ratings. They look at 3 basic areas: communications, the department, and water supply. The department struggled on those or lost points in that area for training and staffing. Obviously, that's a problem. Communications and water. I'm aware of your water supply. Water supply did very well in that study. I'm not sure how. Communications was also ranked high, and that's because of the dispatch center. The next scope that we looked at was evaluation of current organizational staffing models and the ability to meet future needs. Total personnel is 13. National Fire Protection Association structure fire requires 15. So if everybody came, everybody that's on the department showed up for the fire, you still won't have enough. The list talks about 3 chief officers, there's 4 captains, 3 lieutenants. 5 of those personnel serve as board members, and there's 2 daytime, full-time staff members. So it's really giving you 10 officers, 2 full-time firefighter EMTs, and 1 other firefighter. So span of control is a little top heavy, but there's really just not enough personnel to respond to a call. An evaluation of critical issues and future challenges related to governance, structure, and staffing. If you look on the left, it talks about the fact that they're a private corporation, although it's taxpayer funded. Notice of inability to continue. Corporation's not sustainable. There's training needs, limited village control, inadequate staffing, inadequate organizational structure, and they're self-governing. If you look to the right side, those are some of the standards, the state-wise, safety and professional services, 330. There's non-compliance with that, although they're a private company, so technically that's the agency of the state that oversees fire departments. Technically, they don't fall under that, but that would make them fall under OSHA and NFPA standards, and OSHA adopts most of the NFPA standards. Those are more stringent than state requirements. There's also some MABUS concerns. The fact that MABUS requires a certified officer, certified engineer, driver operator, and a firefighter to respond to all calls. Limited as to how many driver operators and they have on the department. Okay, slide. A comparison of organizational structure and industry standards and similar size organization. There's not as many private corporations left out there anymore. There's staffing and retention issues, training needs, limited village control, and it's a standalone department. Your standalone department, you have this need to cover your first response. You should be able to cover a structure fire. So that requires basically 2 engines, a ladder, and an ambulance. They don't have the staff all of that. So on the right, we talked about the fact that as they continue to decrease in size, having more and more problems hiring personnel. That's a nationwide issue, especially for paid on-call personnel. There's retention recruitment issues. The levy caps for you don't allow you to say, hey, well, we need 10 more full-time firefighters, but just hire them. You can't do that with the levy caps. The state won't allow that. They're top heavy as far as officers go, and they feel they need to cover everything in the village. The department's going to feel that. And that's what they tell you in your agreement. They're going to cover everything. It's not possible for them to do that adequately. Comparison of current operational capabilities with nearby municipalities. Nearby municipalities have staff stations, on-duty personnel. They're compliant with MABUS. They have command training, and most of the departments, or your surrounding departments that we were dealing with throughout this, average more than 500 calls per year, a lot more. The time, they currently are only staffed 8 to 4:30. They have 2 at the station compared to all the stations surrounding you, which have 5+ at their stations. The stations around you also have certified officers, certified engineers, certified firefighters, 3 to 4 on an engine. They have ICS, Incident Command System, and Blue Card training, or one or the other. And they are averaging a minimum of 5,000 to 90,000 calls per year. So 11 was provide optimal staffing and organizational structure for the future. If you look to the right, you feel you need 5 to 7 in the station. There's multiple stations with the departments that surround you. You need certified firefighters, you need command staff on duty, fire staff on duty, you need to be MABUS compliant and SPS 330 compliant. 12 was to determine best service delivery to practice, delivery practices to address current and future needs. Again, the station staff part of the day, where surrounding agencies or multiple stations have multiple staff stations. Here, there's 2 firefighter EMTs on duty for part of the day. The other stations will give you a minimum of 8 on. There's PLC backup here, and there's full-time call-in staff available with the proposals that we receive. The paid on-call command, there's actually command staff on duty at the other surrounding departments. And second due unit for Butler currently is mutual aid. Second due unit, when the proposals comes from their own department. 13 was identify modifications to job descriptions. We do not get job descriptions. There's not job performance requirements in place. There are commonly called JPRs that train on those JPRs to make sure they can do the job, and minimal certification requirements. The other proposals, there's municipal job descriptions, there's training based on job performance requirements. Firefighter 1 and 2, driver, operator, and officer certification requirements are in place with the other departments. 14 is comparison of staffing models to comparable sized municipalities. They're comparable sized municipalities are not, obviously you're not surrounded by comparable size. But if you look at other comparable sites, they're often volunteer or paid on call. They're part of the district, a bigger district, and they have paid on premise, especially for providing EMS. So it's not that dissimilar to what you have going on here. Okay.
So at this time, the next slide is presenting the proposals. So did you have any questions for McMahon after the first part of his presentation?
No, I think he's pretty well covered it. I think self-explanatory.
The one question I had is what is, you said in there, a 10-2-1. What is that?
10 officers, 2 full-time firefighter EMTs, and 1 other firefighter.
Oh, that's our staff? Okay,
For instance.
got it. Thank you. No other questions from the board?
No.
Thank you. And if Wauwatosa is here, they could present as well. I don't know if Tosa's here.
No, after everything came in, we spoke with Wauwatosa and they stated that they're not going to be attending.
Okay. Thank you for that report. I mean, it really does show that this department has worked very hard for many years on a very, very limited budget. So it's very eye-opening for the board to actually see it in writing and hard numbers. So it does show that the current staff has been wonderful and they've done everything they can, but we just don't have staff. And that's what brings us here today. So if, in no particular order, would you have on the Brookfield first?
Brookfield first alphabetical.
If Brookfield would like to present anything to the board, then we'll go to the Falls.
Hello,
Hello.
Evening.
my name is Chris Casson, I'm the chief for the city of Brookfield. In the proposal, we think it's pretty straightforward, providing fire and EMS services. It's providing the fire services, EMS services would be at the paramedic level, and then all the specialty services such as hazardous materials. We offer confined space, lingo rescue, all at the operations level, along with vehicle extrication as well. And then the fire inspections, but when including type of like plan review or acceptance testing that some departments do, would just be for the fire inspections of all the businesses. And all that would be from our station. All 3 stations are available, but your primary station would be our station 22 on the north side in the city of Brookfield. That would be the one that would be the closest. I think I included average response times, which would be drive times, would be anywhere from, on drive times would be like 9 minutes to just about 11 minutes. But so far this year, I think we've done mutually 14, 15 times our average response times into the villages, just under 7.5.
That's from the station on Calhoun there.
Yep. On Capitol, all of our stations are on Calhoun. This one's on Capitol and Calhoun.
Yeah, okay.
How many ambulances do you have at that station? Is it just?
So each station, the main station on Civic and Calhoun, that houses the battalion vehicle, which is our ship commander. That also houses the administration. Ladder truck comes out of there, paramedic level ambulance. Capitol and Calhoun, that's going to be an engine and ambulance. And then on our south side, on Greenfield and Calhoun, that's going to be an engine and ambulance as well. Our staffing, Our minimum staffing is roughly about 17 per day. We average 19.3 firefighter paramedics on duty each day. Engines are staffed with a max of 4. They could drop down to 3, and then there's obviously two paramedics on each ambulance. We do have plus staffing that starts with our ladder truck and then goes out to the satellite stations to staff those 6 aid stations.
Do you have a paramedic on the engine also?
Yeah, so we only hire firefighter paramedics. So what you have out of the 60 line staff, 57 of them are going to be firefighter paramedics. Otherwise, we have 3 firefighter EMTs. They're also driver operators as well. So they should drive. So our approach is a little bit more general. Those are the requirements that we ask when somebody's hired, is to be a firefighter.
Want to make sure that this is.
We also want them to be firefighter paramedic equipment operators. So those are qualifications that we have for hiring.
And Brookfield has the capacity right now to absorb Butler for the
Yeah,
most part.
so we average 5,100 calls a year. So about 5-6 calls a day. This station is actually our slowest station. It averages about between 900 and 1,000 calls a day, with anticipated 400 to 500 calls into the village of Butler. It'd become our busiest station, but only by about 200-300 calls. Station 3 on the south side is our busiest station, station 2.
Okay.
Probably the other big thing is we're also, when it comes to, I would stress that ability of like what we have as a product, our workforce, what we can offer for services. We're a huge mutual aid giver versus a receiver. Typically in a given year, we'll request mutual aid maybe like 80 times, but we give close to 240 times. So it's a 3-to-1 ratio as far as the mutual aid.
And we did get I think we saw an email just about the equipment of what your department could be interested in as we move forward.
Right. It would be maybe possible on maybe like the engine and the ambulance, but there is a reality. I'm like, we have a new engine up at Station 22 that we just put in service within the last month. We just took delivery of a second new engine that will be placed in service probably in the next month. We have another ambulance coming, so we'll have 2 reserve ambulances. And so we have this rotation of already existing apparatus. So there's not really a huge need for that. We'd have to take a look at it to see if it would be something that we might consider, but we're already planning on speccing out another engine, another ambulance.
Okay.
So there's no interest, I mean, obviously in a lot of the other stuff because it's pretty outdated, right? But
Yep.
just to be specific, anything you did want, you would purchase.
Yeah.
Not included in the numbers. So the numbers, the 585, does that take in minus ambulance fees, correct? So that's not figured, so that's also yours. The other thing I had was, you guys have your initial was a 3%, and then if your budget went up, whichever was larger, seemed to me that was an open-end deal, which is really something I don't think we would consider doing as far as having an open checkbook, depending on what Brookfield has going on. Case in point is you just had a big referendum that didn't go, that you guys had a big chunk of money. Well, my second question to that would be like, how does that play into you taking us over? Like, what do we have to see coming down the line
Yeah, so
with those types of open-ended stuff?
right. So I mean, I think you're gonna see this all over with a bunch of municipalities, school districts, everything else, as far as like how funding is and stuff like that. For us, it was on average, talking to the finance director, it's a 3% or the increase of operations of the fire department budget. I know that we're highly unlikely that we're going to be going to a referendum. I know that the school district may be, but For us, we can certainly put a soft, after talking to them, put a cap on 5% and then discuss if it would be anything more than that. But it's also one of the things that we're mainly interested in, getting the finance director's sense is we just want to make sure that if you have like inflation, that those things are kind of accounted for as far, and making sure that it's pretty much equal. It's how we calculate it out is on a per capita basis.
But you,
Cost.
could you say of 5%, but yet we're still going to talk about it possibly. So that doesn't give us any guarantee,
No.
security of where we could be, where, you know, other proposals we're seeing are at a 3% and that's it. So I really worry about you guys just missed out on money you needed. And I don't want to be funding that. And then if your stuff goes up, the citizens of Butler don't have a say in what happens over there, but yet we're going to pay for that. Does that make sense of my concern?
No, and I understand that. I'm like, 3% I think is pretty much the average. I know Ben had calculated out on average over like the last 6 years, it's maybe been pushing like 5%, which is why we ended up putting a soft cap of 5% and then meeting and talking about what are the factors that are causing this. And then it would be capped at 5%, but we'd have to come to some sort of agreement forward if it was something really high. We can certainly work that out.
So, but if we're going to do a contract, the contract is, there's not movable numbers typically in a contract, right? I wouldn't want to have movable, then it's not a contract, right? Then it's just a year to year.
It'd be a contract. I mean, I think the discussion that I hear you, but I think it'd be fair to maybe hear from the Falls and then compare the two contracts.
Yes. Well, Falls is capped off at 3% for
But
5 years
but I have-
without an open ended.
Right, but I have questions for the Falls.
I do
So-
too.
So
I'm
I
not-
think maybe we could bring that 3% discussion to 5% back.
Well, how would you like me to answer my questions if I don't get them answered? When along this process do I ask them? After the chief of Menominee Falls comes up and then I got to go back to him?
Well,
So-
you're indicating that we're not going to entertain this contract,
I didn't,
but I don't think that's a fair statement.
I don't think
I
he is.
didn't say that,
He's
did I?
asking
You asked, how can we sign this contract?
It's a question. How can we? How can we sign any contract?
I think you should hear both sides before you, I don't know. I think you need to look at both proposals and then some of your questions could come back, but continue with your questions.
No, I'll stand,
Yeah.
I'll stand down as you want.
Well, I think,
And then you
I
can
think-
tell me when I'm allowed to ask a
go ahead and
question.
ask your questions.
My questions have been asked and you've responded as well.
We might have you back up for more questions.
I got a couple questions. Are you at all open to a 10-year contract?
Sorry about
Are you open at all to a 10-year contract?
a tenure. Yeah, how we structured it in the contract that was in there is a 5-year with an automatic 5-year renewal for like a total of 10 years. And that's kind of just how we structured it. Everything automatically renews unless either side wants
Sure.
to pull out of it.
Okay.
And that's just how we want it. We know you want tenure, but it's just how we wrote it.
Okay, thank you. And then just one other sort of a aside, totally different context. So your water system in Brookfield, your hydrants in that, you guys just do like you would do with our hydrants because we have Milwaukee water? None of that would change for your tactics or, okay. Thank you.
Does the board have any other questions? And we can come back, trustee Baylor, in a few minutes. If you want. That works.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to have Menominee Falls Chief present.
Yes.
Hello. We're waiting.
Warming up. Wow, this is the first time I've ever had to pull up a microphone from my mouth because I'm not very tall. And this isn't very cooperative. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Got you covered.
Well, good evening. We're going to be going through the Menominee Falls proposal for Butler service. We're going to follow the recommendations, the scope, the requirements of the RFP. And that sort of just goes along with some of the requirements that were requested of us. In moving forward, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Joe Pulvermacher. I'm the fire chief for the village of Menominee Falls. I grew up in Butler. I started my fire service career in the village of Butler when I graduated Hamilton in 1988. I'm an Air Force vet. I went to Ramstein Air Base in Germany and served as a firefighter there. I was employed by the city of Oak Creek for 22 years, progressing up to the battalion chief of training. I was then hired by the city of Fitchburg, just south of Madison, was the fire chief there for 8 years. Family brought me back closer to the Butler area when the Menominee Falls fire chief position opened. My bachelor's degree is in fire service management from Southern Illinois University. My master's is in public homeland defense and security from the Naval Postgraduate School. And I'm credentialed as a chief fire officer through the Center of Public Safety Excellence and an executive fire officer through the National Fire Academy. I'm past president of the Wisconsin State Fire Chiefs. I'm the sitting chair for the executive fire officers section of the International Association of Fire Chiefs. One of my primary accomplishments is the development of a partnership with the Government Finance Officers Association. I'm 5'6.5" tall, but my driver's license says 5'7". Just point of full disclosure. Why do I share my bio? I share my bio because I think it's important for you to understand the background of the person who's going to be working most directly with you, the person who wrote this proposal, and what kind of influence it had on the content. I do feel like I need to address one thing that came up through this process. It was brought to my attention that there was some concern that the only time that you saw me was at the last village board meeting. And I would agree, but please understand that that was very difficult for me. Not addressing the board was uncomfortable as I prefer open communication. However, the RFP was very specific that proposers were requested not to contact any village employee or official concerning the RFP outside of the process set forth. Any improper conduct could have resulted in disqualification. So I let the process play out. And if there was anything that was required of me, I was open to be able to discuss it. I knew that I'd have this opportunity to be able to present our proposal to you. I did make 2 exceptions during that meeting. I did say hi to Trustee Tarks. I grew up with her son. He was my roommate when I was on the Butler Volunteer Fire Department. I said hi to Bill because I remember Bill and Charlene coming into James Pharmacy to the lunch counter when I worked there in high school. This proposal is not just a professional obligation. It does represent a personal connection to this community. There is a sense of responsibility for my hometown, but I also have a responsibility for my employer. And with that, my approach to this proposal was one of fiscal sustainability and equitable service delivery. Financially, the Village of Menominee Falls requires me to present a prudent, predictable, fiscally responsible approach to service delivery. Anything and everything that I present for funding must be transparent and sustainable. You would want it no other way. Examples include our SAFER grant, where we just hired 14 firefighters, and it's funded through the 3rd year, permanently placing career firefighters on shift. The Village of Menominee Falls is financially sound based on our funding strategies. From an equity standpoint, we have a proven track record with the Village of Lannon, and I would recommend that you touch base with Patrick Yates, who has had an operating relationship, a professional relationship with us over the past 10 years. And he can share exactly what the Menominee Falls Fire Department does in a situation like this. The following factors did contribute to the overall proposal: was equalized property value as presented by the state of Wisconsin, calls for service, we looked at fire inspections, and we addressed capital contributions, a portion of 1 ambulance and a portion of 1 engine. All costs are upfront and predictable from a funding perspective. You'll know what the financial liability is from year to year. I cannot deny that ours came up a little bit higher, but I was trying to address those things that we knew are going to come up based on our experience with another municipality. So What you need to know is that I am authorized to propose what was approved by the Menominee Falls Village Manager and unanimously passed by the Menominee Falls Village Board. Any adjustments to this proposal need to be requested through the village manager, which makes sense if you think about it. If you look at it from your perspective as an elected official, no administrator or governing body wants their fire chief to make unilateral decisions that commit a municipality beyond their fiscal capabilities and capacity. And so that's why it's important for me to make sure that you're aware of the fact that I'm a conduit to the village of Menominee Falls. I'm not the end decision that goes into any agreement. I can provide recommendations, I can provide input, but ultimately the governing body, the elected officials, and our village manager have to weigh in on the subject. That said, the proposal did not give us latitude to give you a variety of different options that didn't necessarily give you the ability to make a decision. So that's why you have what you have in front of you. Any changes to that need to come through the village. You asked about what we were able to do. We are able to provide an all hazards type response. You look at things like technical rescue, extrication, obviously, anything that requires things that resemble high angle, trench rescue, confined space. We have the ability to initiate those responses, and then we call for mutual aid assistance either through the city of Waukesha or the city of Milwaukee. I can tell you that is one of our strategies and one of our strategic approaches is to make sure that we have capabilities on a tech rescue level. We have a structured fleet maintenance program. That's why we would ask for the transition of ownership from your engine and your ambulance into our fleet. It makes it a lot easier for us to provide service to those vehicles. We do have a dedicated training bureau. So if we did have anybody from the village of Butler that was interested in applying for a firefighter position on the part-time side, we have the ability to train them up to our standard operating procedure and get them into the fold. We are a combination department, so we are part-time and full-time. And this basically shares the fact that, yes, we follow all statutory requirements. We do staff our fire stations 24/7. We have 3 stations. We do have clerical and prevention staff. Those are civilian staff. And we do rely on mutual aid assignments, as does just about any fire department in Waukesha County that has a working structure fire. We rely on mutual aid agreements, and we initiate hazardous materials responses as appropriate, and escalating that up to regional teams when necessary. We will respond out of our 3 stations. The one that is closest to you right now is Appleton and Lilly. Our response times into Butler may be expedited using 41. We did time that. Either getting off on Silver Spring or Hampton does improve our response time, and even with backups on the expressway, we still have an emergency lane that we can use. We also have the ability to backstaff with off-duty personnel. Some of the things that you had asked is us to look at operational effectiveness. From a cost-effective standpoint, we do like the ability of maximizing the use of our part-time firefighters wherever possible. They are trained to the same level. These are typically firefighters that are looking to get into the profession, and it gives us the ability to utilize their skill set and minimize the amount of overtime. We also want to make sure that whatever we do, we're trying to reduce the amount of expense that is going out for extra assignments. So we try to take care of what we can with on-duty crews. And if we do have a situation that requires staffing like a private event, well, we have agreements set up so that those that are money-making, profit-making organizations can pay for that service. You asked for a schedule. This gives you an idea of what we would be looking at. I know that this was already in the packet, so if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those, but it gives you an idea. This too is dependent on what we learn through the process, and if there's anything that we have to change as a result of your expectation. Was asked what we were looking to be able to get from the village, and obviously there's a working relationship that needs to ensue. So introductions to the board, making sure that we identified what your concerns were. We could address those short and long-term planning issues. We have to look at ordinances and anything that goes into our being able to be identified as the authority having jurisdiction, to include fire codes and things of that nature. And then long-term goals would be, where's the village going and what do you see it needing in the future? I already stated that we received 14 additional firefighters on the career side, and that gives us the ability to respond with more on-duty personnel and have a more predictable staffing level day to day. We would hire additional staff. 500 calls isn't a lot, but it's not nothing. So by hiring the additional staff, that would be included in the amount that you have in front of you, and would allow us to at least cover a peak ambulance where we see most of our calls going out of the station. And you would receive advanced life support, paramedic level care 24 hours a day. You also have mobile integrated health in your retirement homes. That's essential. That makes sure that we have things like medication compliancy. We can do things like risk reduction. Try to avoid sending people to the hospital in the ambulance by taking care of things in their homes. We do have a full complement of command staff positions. And right now, we don't have a need to increase our administrative levels. However, we do have availability and some room for part-time staff. One of the things that I wanted to go over, we do not charge for fire inspections. We are looking at charging for the third inspection. What that suggests is we've already been out to the business or wherever we're doing the inspection. We came back for the re-inspection because we identified a violation and they still haven't corrected it, which means then we have to come back out a third time. It's during that third time that we would look for reimbursement, because now that's an extra strain on everybody's budget. So we expect that the re-inspections will happen. Sometimes those can be self-certified. Sometimes we need to make a second visit. Either way, it wouldn't cost anything additional. These things that you're seeing on the screen are typically done in concert with building inspection when new buildings are coming in, or you're revising or remodeling a building significantly. Our emergency service fees, you would be considered a resident fee. So for BLS, that would be 1,000.
Oh, no, you're thank you.
So resident would be 1,150. This is all in our ordinances. This is something you can look up. It's available through the Village of Menominee Falls website, similar to what you have posted. Resident for advanced life support at the first level would be 1,350. And as we go on to more advanced life support, it's up to 1,500 for resident. We also charge for no transport fees. So typically these are lift assists. And the reason why these are important, we found in our municipality, is because there are a number of retirement homes or community-based residential facilities that don't hire enough staff to take care of the people that are under their care. Mm-hmm. They call us to help out. They're still getting paid to do that service. So they're using the municipal service to augment their service, and that's why we use the fee. It minimizes the use of our resources. I'm sure Brookfield is the same. And then when we do care on scene and no transport, that cost is a little bit higher. Those are typically calls like your diabetics who are in a situation where they need care. Once they receive care, they are fine, or at least they're able to make their own decisions to the point where we don't transport. But we provided care and medical supplies. Some innovative approaches. We're already a combination department. That does help. Internship and cadet programs, we're always looking at those, especially as recruitment becomes an issue. We are doing peak ambulance staffing right now, and we can always identify what it looks like to either have an intercept or a quick response vehicle. Those are things that happen as the communities grow and as the need becomes greater. Right now, our staffing is 4, 4, and 4 on a minimum, and 5, 4, and 4 with maximum staffing. With the additional hire, we put all of those additional firefighters at 99, Appleton and Lilly, and that would give us more people there to respond into Butler and still maintain our own response. The other thing that I'm showing you, and I've indicated this in the proposal, of the last 10 times that we've responded into Butler, 6 of those times we made it into the village without being called off, and our average response time was 6 minutes and 49, 6:49, so just under 6.5 minutes. The idea behind this is, yes, it could be anywhere from 8 to 7, sometimes 10. What we wanted to also look at is what is the current response time, and that's why we figured our response out of 99 was still applicable, because response times were comparable to what you're receiving when people respond in to the Butler Volunteer Fire Department from their paid-on-call or pagers. And then this gives you an idea of the overall organization. This was also in your packet. The thing that I want to say here is that recruitment issues that Butler experienced are reflected nationwide. It's a nationwide trend. Recruitment is down. Volunteer and part-time fire departments are having issues functioning. The impact on volunteer and part-time participation is influencing the feeder system of career departments as well. So what that means is our current structure as a combination department, we have 44 career, we have 36 part-time, and with that arrangement, we have our own feeder system. So we can bring people in who have expressed interest in being firefighters. We train them up to the level where they're able to respond. And then as we start hiring career people, we already know the work ethic of the firefighters that are applying. If every day is an interview, we have a really good idea of what we're getting out of our employees. So we try to stay on top of recruitment and retention. We try to establish a place where people want to work and achieve the requisite knowledge to advance their career. So some of this has already been identified. I'll just brush over it real quick. Primary estimate, 1 more additional firefighter per shift. Does not require the use of Butler's fire station, would transfer ownership of 1 engine, 1 ambulance, and preferably the light tower. Ownership of any tools and equipment necessary to outfit the engine and the ambulance. And then that could all help cover the cost of services remaining for 2025 and the 2026 amount that Butler is unable to cover. I put that in because that is something that I can't negotiate, but a call to our village manager gives you an idea of what's on the table, what's off the table. From community engagement, we enjoy going out into the public. Our firefighters oftentimes do it without instruction, regardless of the event. It could be National Night Out, it could be a parade, it could be a block party. The other thing that we make sure that we're participating in frequently are those things like education, getting into the schools, making sure that we have the smoke detector, CO detector awareness. And then with our mobile integrated health, it allows us to get into those homes as well. So this just gives you an idea. This is already in your packet. The proposal is what it was, $691,000, just over, for 2026, and starting in 2027 at 3%. That could be reevaluated in 2030 and 2031, no different than what we've done with Lannon. And that is something that is reevaluated by both parties on the Butler side and the Menominee Falls side. We would continue to maintain the revenues from ambulance billing, but we would you would receive your 2% dues. And that is something that we do currently with the village of Lannon. We already talked about the additional equipment that we would be looking for. And the other thing that we identified was some of the ancillary items that allowed you to identify where we would be responding from and what could potentially happen with the existing Butler Volunteer Fire Department staff. there is institutional knowledge there. If we have firefighters that are still interested in serving, there is an option with the Village of Menominee Falls. And that's where I leave it for questions.
Thank you. I do have a question. Regarding the service contract price, I get that $691,680. Am I understanding your proposal correctly that you then want the village to give you certain equipment at no cost?
So that was the initial proposal, and what I recommended in the slide and what I've talked about with the village manager is that that's something that you wanted to address as part of covering part of that first year. We understand levy limits, we understand expenditure restraint, and if that was an issue, there are ways of making that happen. But then the transfer of equipment would take place as part of that agreement.
So if we did not give you the equipment, would that, and we went into negotiations to talk about this further with the falls, would that change your base price of $691?
If you would take away the equipment,
Yeah. Let's figure we have $300,000 of what you want for equipment.
Mhm.
You just want us to give that to the falls. So your price tag would be $900,000.
I apologize for interrupting.
That's
So
fine.
yes, the price that I am proposing based on what I'm authorized to be able to approve is a $691. If you wanted to talk about the vehicles and all of that other stuff, that is definitely a conversation that I would have with our village manager. I am putting myself into a very tough spot negotiating for the village. You wouldn't want anybody to negotiate for you guys. I can't negotiate for my village. I can tell you what has already been approved, but then going to that village manager and saying, look, these are the concerns that we have, and this is what we can figure out as a result of those concerns. That's something that I would absolutely recommend.
So to be clear,
Mhm.
you're going to take what you want for equipment without giving us
Compensation.
any money, junk price, nothing. You're just going to take it.
Well,
It's a yes or no question?
yeah, it's a yes.
Okay.
We would take it, absolutely.
But it's part of
Because
your,
of the fact that it's serving the village of Butler. Yes.
Okay, so thank you, trustee Baylor, because that's what I was gonna ask. So if we did not allow you to take our equipment, would that change your base price then? Would that change your negotiation of your base price as well? I don't know. Is your base price written on the basis that you get our equipment, anything you want for free? I guess is how I'm trying to say that.
So
nicely.
I'm not trying to put any distraction into my response. I'm just trying to state fact. I am not in a position where I can negotiate for the village.
we're not negotiating, we're asking a question.
Right, I can't set, you have what you have in front of you, which includes equipment and the price.
Okay.
If you wanted to address something outside of the price per service or the emergency equipment, I would absolutely recommend that you go to the.
Okay.
And then on the 2% dues,
Yes.
there was an email thread, Ben, if you could, that says you can't let us keep it?
So it's my understanding, this was pointed out by McMahon, that under SPS, the fire department providing the fire protection services is entitled to and must receive the dues. I provided the board that information, I think late last week, for the screenshot of the SPS draft from the state and the state statute.
So what you have in front of you is the same thing that we provide to the village of Lannon and have for the past 10 years. They receive their own 2% dues. Because they're providing, we do their fire inspection, they are still providing fire prevention. That's something we need to look at, we can look at, but right now, we're entering into this agreement the same as we would for the Village of Lannon. And the Village of Lannon provided equipment.
Are you having the same struggles that our department's having with personnel, like getting people?
So because of the fact that we positioned it as a combination department, I can tell you when we were all part-time, yes, we were having a tough time. As a combination department with a majority career, it's a lot easier because people see that as the ability to be able to make the fire service career and being trained by a department that is able to get them there. And with that, what we can do is we can establish from our own perspective, from our own observations, who is really doing what they need to do to position themselves as a member of the fire department and to get as much talent as they possibly can. So I think I stated it earlier, every day is an interview, gives us an opportunity to see our future employees, gives them an opportunity to position themselves well for a job.
Sure.
And if I can just add on to Mr. Kasdorf, Mr. Baylor's questions, I did want to bring up the use of Fire Station 2 as well, that they would be looking to use that without compensation being proposed in the agreement. I just, again, adding on to the discussion.
Yeah, that was gonna be coming from me. You beat me to it, but aren't you guys just got approved for a training center?
We did. So right now, we do have used the Village of Butler's
Yep.
training grounds.
Yep.
That type of thing is not a make or break from my perspective. I can't negotiate, but if that's
Right,
something
it
that
says-
you absolutely wanted to maintain control of, it's a matter of saying that's off the table.
Yeah, I mean, you said you wanted to use it for cold storage and training, but obviously you don't need it for training.
Don't absolutely need it. It was one way of us bringing our operations into the village and being able to do more in the Village of Butler. Gives us the opportunity to be closer to the areas that we serve. No different than what we do in our entire response area right now, where we could go anywhere in Lannon or Menominee Falls to do on-site training. That was just.
Yeah, the training thing is, I guess, not the biggest part of it, but utilizing a building for your cold storage, whereas,
If it's something that.
we all have storage needs, right? So you storing stuff, I don't think brings us closer together. Training, yes, and you've used the training, right? And that's been great. I wouldn't want to change that if it's still needed, but as far as taking over a building for storage is, I don't
Storage is not
understand.
make or break. What it was is it was taking advantage of resources that you had available, that if you weren't going to use, we have a use for it. If you have a use for it, all you have to do is tell us what you want.
If the falls used it for training and such, would they kick in for maintenance? Or would that just?
Well, I think anything that we have done and would do in that area, we would be financially responsible for. So we break something, we fix it.
Sometimes just over time though, especially if it's for firefighting purposes, just brick and mortar and from the heat and cold and the changes, all that kind of stuff breaks down. So that'd be something that would have to get ironed out in the contract that spelled out.
Same with insurance and whatnot,
So, yeah,
depending
to
on
be
what's house
determined,
stored
yeah,
there.
okay.
And so the way that I looked at this, and I apologize if this was just an interpretation on my behalf. This is a proposal. The actual contract negotiation happens between the municipalities, not the fire chiefs.
Yeah, right.
And so at that point, you're going to say, this is what we would really like this to look like. And then the negotiations happen with, this is what we want, what you want, and we try to make it work. I think that's what I interpreted into this process. This was the jump off point to give you an idea of how serious we were. And then it gives you the ability to have something to talk about in the way of negotiation.
Right, we're not trying to, I don't know if we're having a lapse here, because we're asking questions, and it seems like you're taking our questions as we're trying to negotiate.
Yeah.
Because you keep saying you can't negotiate when we ask you a question. We're not trying to we're trying to ask questions. We're trying to get some clarity for us so that we can then go to your village administrator or finance, whatever it is, right? So please don't take us asking questions as negotiations. We're just trying to get through these proposals from both sides.
So from a fire department standpoint, vehicles would be nice because it provides predictability, gives us some latitude from a frontline and a reserve status operation, gives us the ability to make sure that we are able to respond in Menominee Falls and to Butler. Is it necessary? We've made it work without. We can make it work without what you have in front of you. I just. like you
We,
said,
look, but to that point, I don't think we want to give with, I mean, it's an asset to the village that would just be gone, right? When you purchase or offset, that's a whole different scenario. You negotiate that price. But for us just to give, and it seems like there's a lot of that I interpret in that proposal as a lot of you guys are taking. My interpretation, right?
So I used our negotiations with Lannon 10 years ago as a springboard into what is provided to you. Lannon provided equipment because they needed a fire department. So we started there. If you absolutely want to sell that equipment and you don't want it to be part of this proposal, it's just a matter of taking it out and talking to somebody during the negotiations.
But it's not valuable for you to buy, but it's valuable for you to take. Is that what you're
You
saying?
might buy it if it's on surplus.
That answers a huge question. Okay, perfect. So if we say we're not giving, then if it is a value, then you guys,
We would definitely take a look at market value.
I mean, what's fair? I don't, but just to give is, we got to look out for our residents as well.
Yeah, if I was in your situation, I'd absolutely want the same.
Do we know the market value?
We've done research on the market values. We have estimations that our interns have been able to pull and compile. So we have an estimate. Again, each piece of equipment is going to be unique depending on the wear and tear and if there's been any accidents and stuff like that. But we have an estimate.
On page 12 of your proposal, not to call you right to that, but you talk about our fire station. So are you open to running out of our fire station here if it could be modified
It cannot be.
for housing? So let's just,
Just a look at your fire station right now. It would take a lot of work to be able to make it habitable, to have crew quarters, to be able to respond out of on a 24-hour basis. Is it impossible? No, but there would be a cost on top of the proposal.
so it's kind of an end around for my question. So let's just phrase it another way. If our quarters were capable of housing full-time, would you consider running out of our village? Or are you just opposed to that? You want to just stay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have no idea what Butler's going to look like in 10, 20 years. You could start putting in 10-story apartment buildings and that would completely.
It's not possible.
Okay,
There's no building going on here.
I'm talking.
It's not possible. All due respect,
No,
it's
that's-
not possible.
No, that's fine.
We're not growing.
I'm just saying, the way that the village is set up could look different in 10 to 20 years, which would then require me to take a look at how we provide emergency response, how many calls are coming into this area, and what kind of impact it's having on the service. But that would also then impact the amount that would ultimately come from the village of Butler, because that typically is indicative of population and other things that are happening in the village to the point where hopefully you're prosperous to be able to cover it. We don't want to operate beyond your capability.
Okay, with that in mind, and I have to ask the board, and I'm gonna ask everybody out there too, in 10 years, how can I phrase this? There would be a possibility with the inflation rate of what's going on today, in 10 years, Butler would have to be annexed between Brookfield and or Menominee Falls to stay alive, period. Just to have some kind of management. Because at this point, I'm looking 10 years down the road, I probably won't be here, but I'm looking down the road for everybody else. What would be the thought of down the road, where do you want to be annexed to? And if
Nowhere.
what you're talking now is part of this.
I plan on Butler being here in 10 years.
I understand that, but we don't know the
That's not the
circumstances.
discussion tonight.
It technically is.
It is not. You're worried about who's gonna,
Well, you're talking about a 10-year contract.
We've
It's the
survived
same thing.
110 years and I
It's
plan
the
on
same
being.
thing.
So I was just through this in the, with the city of Fitchburg. There was the town of Madison that was annexed by the city of Madison and the city of Fitchburg. That was a 20-year process. So if that ever happens, it's not going to happen in 5 years.
Right.
We'll have the ability to talk about what makes the most sense to you. You're going to identify who your community is going to be, and that's going to be based on what makes the most sense to your constituency.
Right.
So back to that, so I know my perspective of running out of Butler is kind of a lone perspective here. So and I know that's probably another discussion that would be for another time, but I just would ask the board if we could have that discussion another time. Allow
Well,
room for that discussion, because I think it's actually a real possibility that we could convert that.
but to what cost? Because we would have to,
I just want to look at it. I don't want to go down the rabbit trail now, but I just want to put a place marker in to have that, because if we could reasonably do that, we're talking about spending a lot of money either way. I think our residents would be best served out of having somebody run out of this firehouse, if at all possible.
Not opposed, but to that, but my question then would be, let's just say that happened. What cost savings does that give us? Or could it give us? Do you think there could be any? We're not holding you to nothing. My question would, if we would have a station here today, would your number be the same or would it be different?
It would be different. It would be more because we'd have to have two positions here. That would be $1 million investment. We looked at it. We wanted it to happen, but $1 million investment in addition to the changes that needed to be made to the state. You don't want one person running out of a fire station.
Right. Yeah.
Minimum 2 on an ambulance, preferably 4.
Right.
So more
But
money plus it would cost us.
An engine was what I had in my mind, yeah.
Well, in this building, the doorways are only 12 foot. There's no way we can put a newer fire equipment in this building.
I mean, the last thing that I want to see, the Butler Fire Department is part of my history. The last thing I want to see is it go away. That's the last thing.
Yeah.
It's a very an emotional thing for me. This is part of how I got into this job. The best I can offer right now is to do it in a way that makes the most sense to those that still live here. And a lot of those people are my family. So it's very difficult for me to address anything that would be in a situation that puts anybody in Butler in jeopardy. So I would love to respond out of here. I just don't think it's financially doable at this point.
Okay, I'll hear that.
I have a question. If Station 99 can't respond, would it come out of Silver Spring?
Yeah, so it could come out of just about anywhere. Typically, it would go 99, 97, which is Silver Spring,
Yeah.
and then 98, which is Main and Menominee. However, we took a look at our numbers, the likelihood of those being out at the same time, in addition to the fact that we have vehicles that are constantly on the road
Mhm.
that could respond from their location in the village. So there's a number of things that we can do in order to supplement. And just as if this was an agreement that you made with Brookfield, if they couldn't respond, they'd call us. We do have mutual aid agreements to be able to take advantage of them. And that regardless of who signs the contract, we're going to be using each other.
Right.
Do you have a callback system in place for major events? You do? Okay.
Yep, it's an all call. So flooding, for example, I got called in at 2:00 in the morning and went out to all of our members to come in.
Okay. I do appreciate, the years, your presentation and your departments and Brookfield as well, coming in and supporting Butler. That always says a lot. And I do appreciate that. And the board appreciates that as well.
Yes. And I appreciate the time to be able to share what we hope to be able to help out with. But questions don't have to end here.
Sure.
And so if there's anything else that you need, please feel free to reach out. You have my contact information. It's in the packet. I'd be happy to talk about it.
Fair enough.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Trustee Baylor, did you want to bring your questions? Did you have any additional questions for Chief Cass of Brookfield?
No, I mean, it's all in there.
Okay.
It's all in there. We can discuss it as a board.
Okay. Now that the public has heard both presentations at this time, is there anyone desiring to be heard on this agenda item? No one. Chief, please come forward. And then Chief Zulu.
Could I just
did you
have
want
your
us-
name and your address, please, for the record?
Oh, name and address?
Name and
Lucas
address.
Trudell, 4641 North 125th Street. So just a question overall to the board, because these contracts are worth significantly more in the fire department, $200,000 outright, on top of no getting 2% dues and not getting ambulance building. What's the cost difference there? Like, what was the Butler Volunteer Fire Department actually getting paid in total, minus 2% dues and the ambulance?
So the ambulance average, depending on, well, we budgeted 70,000, and then the dues have increased. I think this past year was about 14.
So $80,000. So where's $400,000 in come?
Which 400,000?
So basically, you can subtract that from the fire department's budget because the fire department was earning that. So now you're down to $300,000 plus. Whereas
I see what you're saying.
$400,000 difference in income from either before either of these departments.
Well,
I've been working through the budget on this, and it's part of what's going to be presented in October, but essentially it's going to be a 1-year implementation where we're going to have to borrow for all of the capital expenses that we were going to have. That frees up money to then go into the general fund. That also then the expenditure restraint funds normally go into the capital fund, but those can also be put into the general fund. So those will go into the general fund. We do have back ambulance bills in state debt collection that we're still going to be collecting on through probably in the next 2 or so years. So I have some money budgeted for that. And I would have to pull up my whole budget spreadsheet, but we are within $20,000, depending on what proposal. Again, one proposal is more than the other, but we're within a striking distance of coming to a balanced budget. Beyond that 1 year, then we are going to be moving towards likely a fire service charge, and the calculations behind that we're still working on. We have time to work that out, but it would basically be a charge dependent on a certain aspect of a property, whether that be square footage, whether that's assessed value, whether it's a combination of items, and that would then be assessed. There would be a drop in the levy limit, or the levy that we would have based off of the 2014 budget for the fire department. So that would come off the levy, so that would reduce what we're charging for the fire service charge. So I'm sorry, it's a very roundabout kind of discussion, but that's kind of how it would be funded.
If we can come up with $400,000 for this somehow with all those numbers, how come we can't make something work with the current fire department, because we've been struggling for money for the last decade?
We've been running to what they have offered everyone here, it's on a budget. The police department, the fire department, the library, everybody here is on a very strict budget.
$400,000 additional from village residents. The village of Butler Fire Department is asking for more than a 3% raise for last decade.
Did he say that was coming from a 400,000 from the village residents at this point? No, he did not.
2 years from now, it will be.
It's going to be something, but it won't be 400 at that point. We still have.
200, 100.
Well,
You know what I mean? It's just all getting taxed on the part or on the village residents when we have something here that does work.
Can I?
But we haven't been able to staff because we have not been able to employ people because of the money.
You're saying if you had this budget, you'd have full-time people?
Full time? No, I'm not saying that. But we've struggled with retaining staff
Sure.
because you cannot pay them at all.
So from what I'm hearing from McMahon's presentation and just in the weeks leading up to this, that your budget is just sort of one facet of the issues. So retention overall, which is not Butler's fault, it's a nationwide problem. We recognize that retention for part-time departments. So in my mind, just having the money for it won't guarantee, because Menominee Falls went through that. They were part-time and they were spending the money and they still couldn't keep it until they went full-time. So just putting money at it wouldn't answer that question. But the employee retention is a big issue. It's one issue, but the age of the rigs and equipment, and so on, the station itself, because we can't house full-time, as has been made clear to me, so it's not just one simple problem. It's a combination of things that are coming to a head.
Yeah, I understand that. So totally off that topic, just like as a village resident, if you need an ambulance, we have been at hospitals with 3 Brookfield ambulances and 3 Menominee Falls ambulances at the same time. You don't expect that to happen, but bad case scenario, you're waiting for an ambulance from all the way out in Menominee Falls, 20 minutes from here, if you don't hit a train. Worst case scenario, you're waiting for a Brookfield ambulance from Greenfield and Calhoun Road if you don't hit a train. Driving that straight, that's 20 minutes apiece.
Those are worst case scenarios, which are potential for everybody. Our worst case scenario now is where we wait long for an ALS response because nobody's available, which we've already experienced recently. So
We've also had 2 of our ambulances at Freighter too at the same time. So that can happen here just with us, that we don't have anybody. So to that point,
Looking back where we are today and now looking back, it's definitely eye-opening that your department has worked on an extremely tight budget with some years of no budget increase and you can't get the equipment. And we recognize that within the last year or two that we have a problem with everything. And that's how we got here today. So the one thing that keeps coming up is like, what would it take to rehab that department? Because the one truck we talked about was 1.4 million, takes 4 or 5 years to get, and it doesn't fit. So
what happened to all those study results?
Well, that just came to light.
So McMahon did not do a study on what it would take?
No.
Okay.
No, your department had the opportunity to present a proposal and we did not get that. Because you would have, if your department had wanted to do that, you'd have to incorporate living quarters, figuring out the building, the truck, the equipment. And, I stand here very proud that you guys have done that for all these years look at our equipment. It's maintained very well.
Yeah.
And it's something to be very proud of. And the big thing is staffing.
Yeah.
And so that in the last year, it's just gone in the tank quickly, not just here, everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Chief Zulik, did you have any comments at all? Did you want to?
other than the fact that I think Brookfield, Florida Falls, you need to talk to their managers, both the truck issue, that stuff should be a little more negotiated. I think either one of them would do an excellent job. I've known these guys for many years. So. Chief, we want to thank you for all your years of service, all your family's service that's kept this fire department going. It's not unnoticed. No matter how this outcome is, right, that whether the money wasn't there and it's not one thing, right? But your dedication and your family's dedication is appreciated.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. Your name and address, please.
Jeannie Blair, 4911 North 132nd Street. Is TOSA off the proposal then? They're not going to be.
We have their number, but they didn't present. Their number was 950,000.
high
To start.
And they're
So
not,
They didn't want to do a presentation or.
They did not.
All right, because it sounds like the pricing is not there's some questions, pricing, so that's why I was wondering if also was gonna be presented.
Well, they gave an opportunity, they must have looked at it, they informed us that they were not gonna
Oh.
present. So all we have is their presentation, or what they submitted to us is online in our packet information. And the base number is 950,000
Plus 10 for their capital reserve contribution.
plus 10,000. Okay.
Every year.
Okay, so at this time, we've had both discussion. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I apologize, please. Name and address, please.
Amy Rummel, 5005 North 131st. I didn't hear in Brookfield's proposal, and I may have missed it when I read the proposals, but for ambulance services, will we be residential rates or will we be billed as non-residents?
I believe
I was
residential.
gonna say, I thought he said residential. I believe it's in there. Yes.
Good question.
And then I did have a question about Menominee Falls, and he brought up the SAFER grant quite a few times, and that there was funding for that for 3 years. What about after the 3 years?
Funded beyond the 3 years.
And then I just wanted to say that, first of all, I think it is great whether we do Brookfield or Menominee Falls, we'll be getting paramedic services, which we do not currently have. And I know that will take a little longer, but with getting volunteers in currently, it does take time. So I do appreciate the looking at that. I also wanted to your point of not having a cap on the percentage every year. I think that is definitely something that needs to be considered.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So we have in front of us three proposals. We should still consider TOSA if we want. On the surface, both will provide ALS service, and that's something we don't have now. Brookfield is, 585,000, and then you get into the percentages and the caps. So I'm just looking at base price right now.
Well, just based off of that, I hate looking at the bottom number because there is so much that's in between those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas, Brookfield's heavy on fees on top of their base. Their fees are inspections. There's a big cost, an average of $200 some per time. Plus all the other fees that are in there that Menominee Falls doesn't have. And then let's just say we put a 5% cap, soft cap. When someone puts that in there, my thought is that we're going to hit that pretty quick at a 5%. So let's just say we use that 5%. In 5 years, right now, if you look at the bottom number, it's $106,000 difference, right? But you take that over 5 years, and if we use their 5% and 3% with Menominee Falls, just in 5 years, we cut that in half. And that doesn't include the fees. That's just the bottom number.
Yeah,
right? Doesn't include the fees on top of already that we're going to have to get money from residents and businesses to make this happen at some point in time. So we're going to do that. And then on top of that, there's fees. And so just a bottom number, I don't know that is something that I think it needs to be broader than that, because we can all see it's $106,000, right? It's what's in between. And that's where I struggled with both sides have things that I think, are in there.
Mr. Kasdorf, if I can, I didn't have. I wanted to just kind of give overviews on some of the items that I've discussed. The main questions that I have and the concerns that I have and I've been fielding from trustees is the two unknowns with the two different departments. We have the unknown with Menominee Falls, where after 5 years we're going to reassess where we are. We don't necessarily know what that means, what we're going to be, what that rate's going to be after that 5 years. We're going to have the 3% until then, and then what happens after that. I have some questions / concerns with regards to, I was looking at the Village of Landon. I know that they're a completely separate municipality. They have their own contract. But if this was kind of the springboard for our contract, this from 2024 to 2025, their fire service budget increased 16.6%. And their fees are actually underneath Butler's fees. They're getting charged about 400 to 500,000. We're starting off at 691. So I guess I just wanted to, I had questions on that. With Brookfield, again, we have that ceiling of the 5%, or the unknown ceiling, the soft cap of the 5%. I calculated within the past 6 years, the average was about 5.23%. Again, there was wild swings. There was a 1 year where it was 1.8%, another year that was 11.8% of an increase. I have concerns with regards to if there is a referendum that's brought forward in 3 or 4 years, and the fire department, the Village of Butler is not going to have a vote on that. We don't get a vote on the referendum. If their budget then goes up by 20%, let's just say, again, a very high number, then right now that's going to, our call volume, I'm going to be honest, is not going to go up. I mean, it's been steady, as you saw in the McMahon's presentation. It's been very steady for the past 5-6 years at between 450 and 550. We're really not going to see too much of an increase over the time. We're not expanding. We're landlocked. We might see a couple buildings here and there. We're not expecting subdivisions and apartment buildings and large industrial complexes. So that's kind of my concerns with just some of those unknowns, and just making sure that we're getting charged appropriately. Because again, they're going to be on top of that fees. They're going to be having the ambulance fees. They're going to be having the dues. They're going to be having the fees on top of that. I did project out, if we do assume, as Trustee Baylor has mentioned, again, if there's the soft cap of 5%, within 10 years, Brookfield exceeds Menominee Falls in the fees, or on the amount due for the contract. It does narrow between years 5 and 10, where if you incorporate the fees, I did a breakout of several buildings. If we used our fire service charge, that the fees would, between 5 and 10 years, Brookfield would then exceed Menominee Falls shorter than 10 years for that. So again, that's kind of what I wanted to put out there, is some of the village's numbers and concerns with regards to that.
I don't remember what Brookfield said for our rigs. Would you compensate us for our rigs, or you don't want anything to do with our rigs? So we can sell them and get money from them.
Yes.
They're not.
Chief wanted to respond to Ben's comment about the percentages.
Yeah, the percentages with Lannon, their net new construction went up along with their population over 11%. Their equalized value at the state level also went up. The thing with Lannon is that we respond to about 100 calls a year to Lannon. And with Butler, the population density that you have, along with the elder care facilities, you have the 400 to 500 calls. So we're mostly impacted by Butler is calls for service and inspection, and where Lannon is impacted is with population and equalized property value.
Thank you.
Lannon's went way up though.
Yeah, they're building like crazy.
Yeah.
They have the
They're
land.
charged-
Like I said, I just wanted to get that on record as an explanation, because I know that on some of the social medias, people have voiced concerns over the
14%.
the fees that Lannon pays.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get that.
Has it ever been put out there to just tie it to inflation? With the annual increase? Is that a good idea? I don't know.
Well, I think that, I mean, it's worth, in the negotiations, bringing that forward. I know that I looked from 1990 to 2025, the average inflationary increase has been 2.25 or 2.5%.
That's the reason for the 3 is to cover expected
To
cost
cover,
increases,
yeah.
Sure.
And again, that's kind of where I was saying is really like I don't really see us having, these exponential calls, because our population has actually slightly decreased over the past 10 to 15 years by 50 people or so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to go to each trustee and just,
Did you want to hear? McMahon does have a recommendation.
Yes.
If you wanted to hear that from them.
Maybe we should save that for last.
I would like to hear it.
Do you want to hear it before or after
I
our
would think
comments?
after.
You want it before or after? I was gonna ask each trustee what their pros and cons were, or what they wanted, and then you have a preference?
Yeah, no, I don't. No, whatever you want to do.
Why don't we just ask, I'd like to ask each board member to, if they have any pros or cons, either way, for Brookfield or the Falls, and then I'd ask Jeff to come up with his recommendation. I think that's neutral.
Be fair.
And I guess, Mr. Kasdorf, just to, do we want to offer to Mr. Cass to come up and answer any of the questions that were asked by the board or by myself?
Yes, please.
I don't know,
Did-
I didn't know
did
if he
we-
had if he
did
had
we
any
have more?
responses. No, but again, I brought up some stuff. I wanted to give
Oh,
him the floor to respond to anything that the board had commented about.
Do you got any questions? I got a couple of responses. I'm like the swings, it depends on over the last 5-6 years on calculating out how much our increase is. One of them could have been when we started Safer, so we're post Safer grant, so it could have been the year that there was that wild swing of 11%. But I know we did talk about, me and the finance director did talk about tying it to inflation, and that's really the crux of it, is making sure that we account for inflation, so that residents of Butler and Brookfield are kind of tied into the cover those costs. When it comes to the fees, kind of anticipate roughly that the fees would probably generate maybe like another $60,000 to $80,000. The fire inspection fee, we'd want to reduce that. So right now, my understanding is that the fire department does the inspections twice a year. We actually want to reduce that down to once a year, with the exception of a few high hazard occupancies, and have the ordinances mirror much like what we do in the city of Brookfield as far as when it comes to the fire inspection fees. We don't have any reinspection fees right now. There is the ambulance fees. Obviously, ours are going to probably be just a little bit higher because we have an ALS rate for the paramedic level service. We do have a lift assist fee, but that only pertains to care facilities, which I'm not aware that there are any, so they wouldn't apply to residences, so they wouldn't be hit with that. There is a roadway emergency response fee, which is very similar to fire department has right now. It's $500 to clean up if you're in an accident, vehicle fire, or hazardous waste cleanup, which is, I'm sure Menominee Falls does that as well. Most of us have those same increases in the state statutes. I think of what else there would be for fees. If you have any questions.
Well, my biggest question would be, and my biggest problem right now with Menominee, or Brookfield rather, would be that the 5% is a float. And it really kind of bothers me a lot because it can, I've had explosions before and I don't want to say it.
And when I email back after talking about that, because I think in the original, in the proposal and following up with Ben, in talking to our finance director, it's the cover, that's the main
Yeah.
inflation, which is why it's like, we'll put a cap of like 5, and then we can meet for as far as to what are those moving forward. Certainly if we want to do whatever, I know the finance director had mentioned maybe CPI +2 or anything like that.
And then, do you guys have all full-time, or do you have part-time as well?
Rear department, 69 personnel, 67 are sworn. Like I said, our average staffing is 19.3 per day, minimum staffing 17, so
Okay.
it's all full.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Chief Cass?
Appreciate,
All right. thank you.
appreciate.
Okay, trustee Benjamin, I wrote down 5% cap was one of your issues.
Yes, that was one of my major issues.
And then anything on the falls at all?
Just the number right now. It's just, that's a big number for us to reach right now.
Like the baseline?
Yeah, basically number.
Okay. All right, thank you. Trustee Baylor?
I struggled a lot going through these because I think they're both phenomenal departments. I don't think either one would fail us. But to my point of not looking at bottom numbers, but to look further out, which I think is what our residents might want us to do as well, right? I understand $106,000 out of the gate is a lot of money, but as far as my differences go, if we stay at that 5%-ish, maybe more, Brookfield overcomes us. So that's a big issue for me. Menominee Falls is, they want a lot of things for nothing. And they're not, we're not sure about 2% dues. So I think that is an issue. But long-term, as Ben has said, for the longevity of our community, just out of the simple fact of those bottom numbers that we seem to want to talk about, Falls comes ahead. So I struggle with that unless Brookfield can bring some of those percentages down. So those are kind of my thoughts on that.
Percentages on and everything.
On
like
the
caps.
yearly going up.
On the cap.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Every time we asked, it gets different, and there's still not like a cap. They like soft cap.
Yeah.
What does soft cap mean? Open-ended kind of again, right? So that's for interpretation. They just seem to want to have an open, and it scares me. And it's because in the long term, that's a lot of money.
We're just protecting ourselves, just like you're protecting yourself, so. With that.
Trustee Holman, comment?
I kind of share a lot of Trustee Bowler's sentiments there. I mean, I really like both departments. I would note that Brookfield stepped up when we needed to establish an ALS response agreement. They were very present as part of that. And if I'm not mistaken, all the departments were offered that opportunity, correct?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one's shaking his head. And so, I mean, so that I appreciated that. And that the process even took a little bit longer than we initially anticipated, and they were right there with us. So that speaks to me. I appreciate that. While I have concern with the soft cap issue there, I don't like that the Falls just wants everything and with no compensation for our rigs. I mean, we have capital investment in this stuff. I know it's old, but it's still working. So it's got to be worth something. So that's difficult to get past that stuff too. And I guess I kind of don't understand the SAFER grant. Because my understanding for the SAFER grants is that it was a 3-year grant as long as they would keep sustaining that as long as you could justify it. Is that correct? That's how those all worked? There was a 3-year grant that.
So it's a 3-year grant to allow you to get up to staffing, allows you to adjust your budget to then be able to support the staffing after the 3 years. So what we did is we took the money that was coming in from the grant, we put that into our budget so that we could invest that into the long-term staffing of those positions. So that's how we were able to make it work to the point where the staffing was available beyond the 3 years.
Okay, because the grant is gone.
The grant is
Essentially
gone
now, yeah.
in August of next year.
Okay, yeah,
So
okay.
we have the money coming in, but it's funded beyond those 3
Yeah,
years.
okay, thanks, okay. Brookfield, I had to have to assume you did something similar because you got a grant as well, didn't you?
We did, ours
Yeah.
ended in August,
Okay,
or, sorry, May of this year.
okay,
And so we just have to sustain it ourselves.
Yeah.
But it allows us to actually run things
is providing coverage for Butler something that is like an asset, a benefit to your department to justify your budget, to Brookfield and so on, or is this, you're just doing this out of the kindness of your heart,
It is, it does. We have the capacity, and it does help out our budget well. So it's both things.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, answer. My leaning would be to Brookfield just because of the initial thing. It's a really tough call, but.
Okay.
that would be my leaning.
Okay. Okay. Myself, I wrote down a couple, both departments support Butler. Both are very close to us. Both use Waukesha Dispatch, and that was one thing. If we were looking at TOSA, that could be a real problem.
Mhm.
But since that hasn't come up, I haven't gone down that road. I do like the fact that Brookfield's a full-time department and they have the capacity, whereas the Falls would have to kind of staff up a little bit. And then the only thing that I'm bothered by is the Falls. I'm a little hung up on their proposal summary as a whole, and I get they're higher and the caps are a little bit different, but I'm just kind of stuck on if the request for the additional equipment affected that contract price. And I know, Chief, you can't speak to that, but it just kind of stands out like, because we're dealing with hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment. So I just kind of, that, I know now they said they would be interested in buying it, but it just seems they put that in there for a reason. And I can't get past that.